In 1994, a Microsoft designer built a typeface for a cartoon dog for software that never even shipped. Today, that same font has shown up on ambulances, government reports, and the announcement of the Higgs boson. In the early 90s, Microsoft was building cartoon guides and talking assistants to make computers feel friendlier. But the default typefaces of the era were built for legal contracts and newspapers, not for a cartoon character talking to you. Vincent Canard joined Microsoft in 1993, already deep in font engineering after years hinting TrueType fonts at AGFA/CompuGraphic. In 1994, program manager Tom Stevens showed him a beta of an upcoming release, codenamed Utopia, later shipped as Microsoft Bob. It featured a cartoon dog, Rover, guiding users through the software in speech bubbles set in Times New Roman. Canard's reaction, later recounted to The Guardian and CBC Radio, was immediate. Dogs don't speak Times New Roman. A 500-year-old newspaper typeface coming out of a cartoon dog's mouth struck him as absurd. So he built a replacement himself, using nothing but a mouse, pulling reference from two comic books on his office shelf, Watchmen, lettered by Dave Gibbons, and The Dark Knight Returns, lettered by John Costanza. There was just one problem. He finished too late. Microsoft Bob shipped in early 1995 without his font and was discontinued within about a year, one of Microsoft's most infamous flops. But missing that deadline didn't kill the font, it just delayed it. Look closely at Comic Sans, and you'll notice something most typefaces avoid. It doesn't balance itself. In traditional type, a lowercase p and q are usually mirror images, built from the same shape rotated. Comic Sans breaks that rule. Each letter is drawn with a slightly uneven weight, which is exactly what gives it that someone wrote this with a marker feeling instead of a printing press one.
Then there's the spacing. Comic Sans is set unusually wide with generous gaps between letters. That spacing is why it's been repeatedly recommended for readers with dyslexia. But here's the myth versus fact line that matters. Research on reading and dyslexia suggests it's the spacing doing the work, not the letter forms themselves. Any font set that wide shows similar benefits. Comic Sans isn't uniquely built for dyslexia, it just happens to be spaced generously, by accident, for an entirely different reason. So how does a font engineered to look unprofessional end up on hundreds of millions of PCs? Comic Sans missed its intended launch, but it didn't disappear. Tom Stevens, the same program manager who'd shown Canard the Rover demo, liked the finished font enough to push it into the Microsoft Plus pack for Windows 95. From there, it became one of just 5 typefaces bundled as core system fonts on Windows 95, installed by default on hundreds of millions of computers worldwide, regardless of whether Bob ever succeeded. It also landed in 3D Movie Maker, a kid's software title that reunited the font with the cartoon speech bubble use case it was originally built for. From there, Comic Sans became the default choice for anyone who wasn't a trained designer, but needed to make a flyer, a sign, or an invitation. It turned up in genuinely strange places, engraved onto Spain's Copa del Rey trophy, printed in a photo album gifted to the Pope at the Vatican, even on the side of at least one ambulance. In 2009, the Wall Street Journal ran a front-page feature on Canard and the font's strange cultural life, a level of mainstream attention almost no other typeface has ever gotten.
No font has a backlash story quite like this one. In 1999, some accounts say 2000, designers Holly and Dave Combs launched Ban Comic Sans, arguing that a typeface built for cartoon speech bubbles had no business on serious signage. Even Dave Gibbons, the Watchmen letterer who partly inspired the font, later criticized it directly. The controversy peaked in July 2012 when CERN used Comic Sans on the slide announcing the discovery of the Higgs boson, live to the entire world. The Guardian called it the perfect fusion. By 2019, even the Combses had had enough. Dave Combs retired the campaign, saying the hate had gotten out of hand. Through it all, Canard was never paid extra for creating one of the most talked-about typefaces in history.
If you've ever spotted Comic Sans somewhere it absolutely should not be, comment below. Comic Sans is still bundled with Windows and Office today, more than 30 years after Kinnair drew it with a mouse. It spawned Comic New, a 2014 cleaned-up successor, and even a Google search Easter egg that renders results in the font itself. And Kinnair has said he's used Comic Sans exactly once in his own life, to write a complaint letter over bad service. It worked. He got his refund. That's the paradox this font has lived inside for 30 years, the most mocked typeface on Earth, and one of the most recognized and quietly persistent, still showing up in classrooms and birthday cards everywhere. Tomorrow, a newspaper editor publicly humiliated his own paper's typography, and the font born from that grudge became the most used typeface on the planet. Subscribe so you don't miss it.